Hello everybody, welcome to the Comic Gamer Movie Show. My name is Deshaun and today I'm here to review Dune Part 2. Now, Dune Part 1, as you would remember, I thought was a spectacularly well-made film. I thought the visuals were amazing. I thought the direction was strong. I thought the cinematography, the sound design, all of it. I mean, from the soundtrack to the side design, I thought the creativity around the world, even though us nerds, you know, anyone in the nerd world knows that Dune kind of is one of the OG science fiction novels that inspired Star Wars and other science fiction things that would come after. In particular, Star Wars. But at the same time, like, honestly, like, Dune really did some of this stuff, the chosen one, the chosen child stuff, first, in terms of, you know, the modern era, in terms of what we see today with, like, Star Wars and Harry Potter and things of that nature. Dune kind of did the chosen boy first in, you know, religious slash different context behind the story that they're telling. Dune did it first. The sandworm, the sandy environment, they got there. So, I didn't give the movie too much crap for the story because they're telling the story accurately. In the old Dune story was pretty kind of, not paint by numbers, but it was like there's so much about it that seems familiar because so many other properties that are probably more well known than Dune have stolen from Dune. So that first movie, I enjoyed it from a technical side. It's kind of like Christopher Nolan's Tenet to me, in terms of, I didn't like the story of Tenet, and I didn't really particularly like the characters, which is what would drop the movie down greatly to me. But I thought from a technical level, visually, cinematography, the sound design, all this shit was stunning. It's a stunning film to look at, and that's how I felt about Dune 1. It's like, this is a beautiful film to look at, but it's just a little dry. It's a lot of setup. I didn't particularly think the characters were all that interesting, particularly the main character I didn't think was all that interesting. But in the end, the story it told was a simple story. It wasn't too over the top. There wasn't any inconsistencies there. So the story was a decent story. Just sometimes it'd go long fucking periods of time without anything fucking happening at all. But other than that, it's a great story. Other than that, it was a good movie. I think I gave Dune, the first Dune, an 8. So we're coming into Dune Part 2. And honestly, I didn't know how I was going to feel about this movie. Because going into it, I'm like, dude, I got all these memories from that first Dune. And my review, I don't know if you guys remember, but my review was like, I had so much negativity in my review, even though I still gave it, I think I still gave it an 8. Maybe I gave it a 7, now that I'm thinking about it. But either way, I still gave it a positive score, but it didn't hit me. It wasn't this masterpiece of cinema that other people were making it out to be. So coming into this one, higher scores all across the board. People, like, even the people who didn't like the first Dune, or thought the first Dune were okay, are raving about this Dune. Movie's got 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's being dubbed a classic, an instant classic, the reason you go to the cinema, all these over-the-top, this is an epic sci-fi, you know, epic. This is a sci-fi epic of our generation. I'm hearing all these crazy things about Dune Part 2, so me and Seth go to see it. And I gotta tell you, while I won't go as far, nowhere near as far, as some people's opinion on this movie, it is a big improvement over the first Dune. It's a big improvement. But so I'm going to just start off with the positives, all the positives. First of all, there's a lot more character stuff here. Because the main protagonist, particularly with the main protagonist, because Paul has to really go through some shit here. He has to really, and Paul, there's this weird duality in him. There's this, I love these people, but I want my vengeance, and which one do I want more? Do I want this found family and these the Fremen, I believe they're called, the sand people of the dunes, the Fremen that he's palling around with? Do I want their, I love that I have their respect? Are these my new people? Because all his people are dead. You know what I mean? All his people are gone. The only people who left, as far as he knows, is his mom, and that's it. You know, so there is this conflict. There's this, like, so throughout the entire course of the movie, Paul's whole conflict is, do I want vengeance and power? Or do I want this happiness that I found here with this girl and these people, but at the same time, life is sort of forcing his hand in a way because there's no way he can hold on to this without... So he has to... There's no way he can go on without having to sacrifice this. So it's an interesting thing they did with Paul, and I like that. His mother was also... While I wouldn't say it was a character arc, she was an interesting character, manipulative. Like, there was a lot of stuff going on here. You got to see more of the world. You got to see more other planets. You got to meet the Emperor and the Empress, and, you know, and his daughter. And you got to meet more of the Hierophant. I can't never say their names. I think they're called the Hierophant. The pale, bald people who are the bad guys. You got to see more of them. You got to see their world, and you got to see other characters they introduced. This character, psycho character named Fade. Like, they just did more shit in this movie in general. It felt like things were happening. Because that first Dune, it just felt like there was just too many long stretches of time of feeling like nothing's happening. There's more action in this movie. Everything progresses fast. Now, that might be a slight complaint of mine. I'll get into that later. But everything is progressing. We are meeting new characters. We're seeing new worlds. We are seeing conflict between characters and what they have to do next. The movie's beautiful, okay? From a technical level, it's still a technical marvel of a film. Hell, it might even look better than it did in the first Dune. It looks better here. It looks better. It looks cleaner. The effects look great. The worms look great. The action sequences look great. And they're shot very differently than other traditional action sequences. For instance, very often, there's an action sequence that happens, particularly sword fight sequence, where there is no score, there is no sound. It's just the blades, and the camera doesn't cut away, kind of giving you the impression, or maybe the truth, that these actors are just learning their choreography and just executing them. There ain't no music, there ain't no nothing. Like, it'll just cut away. The final fight, minor spoilers, there's no sound. He's just fighting. Now sound comes in, but when they're fighting, there's no sound. They're just going at it, man. And it's kind of cool because all you can hear is the sound of the blades. So that's an interesting, cool way to shoot action right there. There are some interesting shots, some very cool imagery. Seeing Paul ride one of the worms, or seeing them ride the worms was really, really cool because that's something you didn't even see in the first movie. You know, so everything's better. Everything's better in this movie, honestly. Everything that the first one was, this one is like ×2. It's way better. It's way better in every way, in every fucking way. So I'm happy that that's the case. I did have a problem. Now, this is a me thing. I'm not even going to come at the movie too hard for this, but it did feel like a lot was happening. And a lot was happening very quickly. This is a 2-hour and like 40-minute movie. And when I was going to see it with Seth, I was like, Jesus, okay, we're going to see how this works out. Because if it's fucking as dry as that first Dune, I can't sit here for 2 hours and 40 minutes and have to just look at sand all fucking day. Which I did have to look at sand all day, but other things were happening too. So it made it better. But I will say this. In the first 40 minutes or so, it does feel like things are happening way fast. Like, for instance, the love story between Paul and... I can't remember Zendaya's character's name, but Paul and the Fremen girl he falls in love with, they fall in love with each other. It felt sudden. And the movie does this thing where in the first 30 minutes, about the first 10, maybe 15 minutes are like directly after the events of Dune 1. But then there's like this 20-minute stretch of time, or like this 20-minute stretch of time, where it's insinuating that like months have passed. But like, there's no clear, like there are small indications that months have passed, but it just feels like, especially when you're doing a love story. When you're doing a love story in a movie like this, you really want to sit on that to make it flushed out. Now, granted, you know, it wasn't like distracting or that bad, but it did stick out to me when I was sitting there watching this movie, and I'm like, she goes from, and then granted she was sort of kind of interested in the first movie, but it felt so much like she literally went from, I think he's an okay guy, to, I'll always be with you, no matter where you go. And it felt like that shit just happened in a blink of an eye, dude. It really did. Like, you're watching the movie, and I know, like, the movie insinuates that months have passed. So this, you can infer that months have been passing for this relationship. But the way the movie did it, I don't think it got it across very well. I don't think it got the passage of time across very well. So it just felt like shit just happened. It just feels like his mom went from having a tiny little, you know, because the mom's pregnant. His mom goes from little pregnant to really pregnant. Also, there is some weird shit in this, which I both like and don't like. Like, the whole thing with the infant is just fucking weird. I know, it's in the books, and it's sci-fi horrific stuff, and like, one part of me is like, that is interesting. And another part of me is like, there's a talking infant. Not infant, not even an infant. She's like a tadpole right now in her mom's stomach, and she's talking because she drunk some blue goop, and it's like, yo, this is fucking insane. Like, what? I get like that part was so weird. Now, I got the whole memory. You drink this goop and you get the memories of other people, which that still doesn't even make a lick of sense. But like, it's weird. It's weird sci-fi stuff that you just don't think about. But it is weird, dude. The infant thing is the one that got me. Everything else I was like, okay, I can roll with you. But the infant thing, that was just fucking weird. And I was just like, okay, I guess. Also, for all the buildup of Fade throughout the movie, he kind of, like, in the end, he really didn't get to do too much. Like, they kind of built up to him, and in the end, the bad guys really didn't do too much, which I guess you could, like, is, like, in the end, really. Like, I mean, they did all, like, fucking people up in the first movie, because in the sequel, there's not a lot of them fucking people up, you know. Like, in the end, like, Paul and his people went pretty handily. These are minor spoilers. They went pretty handily here. Like, it's not a lot, like, I never feel the, like he's in any true danger. Near the tail end of this movie, like, near the tail end of this movie, I didn't know anything about anything. But I knew in my heart, I was like, dude, I don't feel like anyone's gonna die here. And no one died. No one from the good guy side died. Now, granted, a bunch of people from the good guy side died in the first one, so you could probably say, all right, well, we need this here. But it was like, okay, all right, cool. You know, he just whoops ass, and you know, he gets the result well, almost the result he wants, and you know, it's just it. But in the end, though, besides those complaints, you know, also once again, I'm not gonna hurt Dune too much for having so many cliches and so many things that have been done in so many other movies. Is there this weird kind of white savior thing in there? Yeah, but it's not played like that, so I won't even really get into it. Also, there is definitely the whole thing about the dude, you know, being the messiah, becoming the leader of these people after a period of time, and fight like using the native people using their environment and their knowledge. Like, sure, there's a lot of like cliche things that when you watch the movie, you're like, well, yeah, I guess that's a thing. But in the end, Dune 2 was a spectacle. It's something that needs to be seen on the big screen because it is a beautiful movie to watch on the big screen. Some movies, you cannot get the same thing. I've said this before. The only reason Godzilla vs. Kong is worth a damn is to see it on the big screen. Because if you see that shit on home, I remember I watched Godzilla King of the Monsters the other day. I was just sitting at home. That shit was not the same. And this is one of those movies. You have to see it on the big screen. It's a well-made movie. Sure, it has a few cliches. Sure, that first bit is a little bit rushed. And sure, in the end, you didn't actually feel any danger for any character. But, other than that, I enjoyed myself. I'd give Dune Part 2 an 8.5. Had a ball with it. Had a ball with it. Anyways, thank you guys for joining the Comic Game Movie Show. Please remember to like and subscribe. I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.